Now that this schedule has officially come out, 8 p.m. last night, the Packers get a double dose of good news from it. We're going to talk about that in this video as we go through game by game, and I give you my take as to what I think the Packers results will be game by game. I want you guys to leave your comments and let me know what you think the Packers record will be at the end of the video. So let's jump into it. One of the first pieces of double dose of good news that comes out of the schedule, in my take, in my opinion, is that the Packers will be opening up at Lambeau Field. We covered that in a video previously. I haven't done it since 2018. So it's a big deal. And what better way to do it than against the Detroit Lions? And what better way to do it against the Detroit Lions that are coming off of a fresh loss of their defensive coordinator, their offensive coordinator, and then, a plethora of other coaching staff that went with their OCs and DCs. So now the Detroit Lions, we're going to be catching them at the beginning of the year, fresh off of some new coaching staff there. What better time to play them, and what better time to set the tone? I think the Green Bay Packers come away with a win here. I know a lot of Lions fans out there who may be or may not be listening would disagree with me, but I absolutely think the Green Bay Packers take over control of the NFC North, and it begins this year with the leadership of Jordan Love. This will be his third year as the starting quarterback in Green Bay. I think he's going to have a monster year. Okay, so then we look at week 2 against the Washington Commanders. This is going to be a Thursday night game. It's going to be a primetime game for the Packers. I'm super psyched about this one as well. You got a very talented quarterback there in Jane Daniels. The Washington Commanders came off of a very successful season last year. Okay, so the Packers haven't lost at home to the Washington Redskins or Commanders since 1986. Okay, so that is a pretty long stretch, and I think they've only played 6 times. So I think the Packers are 6-0 in that duration. But I do think the Packers come away with a win here. It's back-to-back home games for the Packers. I think it's a great tone setter, and I think it's an awesome thing that they're going to be playing a lot of non-conference games early on to build some momentum in the rest of the NFC North. So then week 3, they're going to be playing at Cleveland. So this is a Cleveland Browns team where you're wondering, okay, who's going to be the quarterback? Is it Deshaun Watson? Is it Kenny Pickett? Is it Joe Flacco? Nobody knows. One thing we do know is that there's some trade bait there, and the New Orleans Saints are going to be looking for a quarterback, and who knows if they contact the Cleveland Browns. There's a lot of rumors out there about that. So then the Packers, week 4, will be playing at Dallas. Okay, so the Dallas Cowboys are an interesting, it seems like the NFC East is always changing hands. You got the Philadelphia Eagles that seem to be a powerhouse one year, then the Cowboys, and then it's the Commanders' turn, and they kind of flip-flop, and then the Giants will come sneak in there, and they'll be competitive, and all of that stuff. So whether or not the Cowboys take back control of the NFC East, I certainly do not see that happening. Now, we know that they've made some additions offensively there, but I just think that Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys are going to be looking to implode this team after this year because they're just not going to be able to get it done. CeeDee Lamb is really the only talent on offense there, and you got Micah Parsons on defense, but I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are going to get it done this year. So I actually think, and I see the Packers opening up 4-0 right now, and then they play they have a bye week 5, and that's not great news for the Packers because they have a bye week very early in the season, and we know that it is a very long NFL season, and we know that injuries happen. But one of the good things that comes of it is that the Packers, I think, have a lot of depth. So I think they'll be able to understand that they have a week 5 bye and be able to rotate a lot of bodies. I certainly think they've got some very good young talent in Green Bay. Week 6 at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, this is an interesting game because you never know what Cincinnati Bengals team you're going to get. Cincinnati is just one of those teams that is probably the biggest underachiever given the talent that they've got there. They restructured or re-signed T. Higgins there, so they retain him. But this is only the 15th time that these two teams have met up. And I actually think the Packers are going to get a loss here. Okay, so they start 5-0. I think they have a loss here. They're going to be 5-1. Then you got the Arizona Cardinals at Arizona. Now, if you remember last year, this was a tone setter for the Packers. The Packers dominated this game last year, and this was kind of the turning point of their season, where it was like, okay, like we're beating a credible team in the Cardinals, and the Cardinals had a very up and down roller coaster type season last year, but I do think the Packers will again get the better of them. It's going to be at Arizona, so it's going to be a very hot climate there, because it's going to be earlier in the season, for Arizona weather. But I do see the Packers coming away with a win here and being, I believe it's 6-1 at this point. So then you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers at Pittsburgh. This is going to be a primetime game. This is going to be a Sunday night game. And this is a Pittsburgh Steelers team that could be a very intriguing matchup, or it could be just a belly flop. It all is hinging and depending on Aaron Rodgers, which doesn't surprise me to say that it's depending and it's hinging on Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers, man, if you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you got to be super upset with the fact that Aaron Rodgers just is not making up a decision. Do you want to play football or do you not want to play football? It's as simple as that. You still are talented. You still got a lot to give football. And the Pittsburgh Steelers desperately need you and want you. And yet Aaron Rodgers is playing games like typical Aaron Rodgers. And now you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team without Aaron Rodgers, does not look good. Okay, this Pittsburgh Steelers team would be an easy win for the Packers minus Aaron Rodgers. I still think that the Packers are going to come away at Pittsburgh, which is a tough place to play. So you've got a win there. I'm giving a healthy amount of wins right now. I do realize that, and I know that everything's subject to change, barring injuries and all of that stuff. Then you've got the Carolina Panthers week 9. You can't help to give them a win there. This is a Carolina Panthers team that's improved from last year. They started kind of building some momentum. So this is a Carolina Panthers team that is going to be much improved than what we've seen, but I think the Packers are certainly going to come away with the win. Then you got the very anticipated matchup at Green Bay, Philadelphia Eagles, week 10. Now, this is a game that would be great for the Packers to get, revenge, if you want to call it that. They lost to them twice last year, the opening game in Brazil, and then they lost in the wild card matchup in last year's playoffs. But I don't see the Packers winning this game here. Philadelphia, they're due a loss here, right? So I've only given them 2 losses to this point. And then you've got at New York. This is going to be a much improved New York Giants team. And it's likely to believe that the Packers are probably going to come away with one of the losses that should be a give me win, because there's just some times that these teams, maybe later on in the season, they just take their foot off the gas a bit. They don't come as prepped or prepared. This could be a game that they overlook, but I don't think so. I think the Packers come away with a win here because they're coming off of a loss at Lambeau Field against the Eagles, and then they're going to MetLife Stadium and knocking off the Giants, in my opinion. Then you've got the Minnesota Vikings coming to Lambeau Field. This is going to be the first since week 1 matchup within the division, and it comes at week 12, which I think is good news for the Packers. I do see the Packers come away with a win here at Lambeau Field against the Minnesota Vikings. Excited to see how J.J. McCarthy does for this Minnesota team. I certainly don't think it's going to be what they had last year in Darnold. I do think McCarthy is somewhat talented, but I also think he might belly flop as well for the Minnesota Vikings. Then you've got at Detroit, Thanksgiving. So this is a matchup, again, not a shocking matchup, because of this is the 23rd meeting that the Lions and Packers have met up on Thanksgiving. And if you remember, the last time the Packers went to Ford Field a couple of years ago, I think it was 2023, they knocked them off and they went far into the playoffs. That was a turning point to their season. That was when Jordan Love started catching some stride, all of that stuff. I don't see the Packers sweeping Detroit. I would love for that to happen. That's not going to happen. So I think they split games. I think they win at Lambeau, and then they lose at Detroit on Thanksgiving. Then you got week 14 against the Chicago Bears. The first time we're going to be playing Chicago, and it's going to be at Lambeau Field. There's no way the Packers lose this one. A lot of Bears fans out there are saying, hey, you guys don't own us because we beat you last season. Well, we were benching half of our team. We weren't taking that game serious. We still own Chicago. They're not going to come away with a win here. So that is only, as it stands right now, I think I've only got 2 losses to date. Okay, so then you've got Denver Broncos at Denver at Mile High Stadium. That is going to be a loss for the Packers. That's going to be Sean Payton and Bo Nix. I don't see the Denver Broncos losing this game at home against Green Bay. I think the Packers come away with their, I believe it's 3rd loss that I have them on here. And then they play Chicago. We own Chicago, so we're going to actually, I think that's my 4th loss. They're going to own Chicago again at Soldier Field, week 16. And then you come to week 17 and 18, and this is going to be, it says to be determined as far as like when they play, what time they play, because let's start with Baltimore. So Baltimore, this is actually the first time they're going to be going and facing Lamar Jackson. They've never played against Lamar Jackson since he's been in the league, which is shocking to me. But if you noticed last year, Jeff Hafley, he had a lot of success defensively against dual threat quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson is certainly a dual threat quarterback. Uh, I think Jeff Hafley just he game schemes very well against dual threat quarterbacks, which hasn't been the theme for the Packers in the past. I do see the Packers coming away with a win of one of the next 2 games, or they flop and they lose to the last 2 games of the season, which is reminiscent of last year. They finished very poor heading into the playoffs, and I think they get back to the playoffs and they either I think I see them at an 11-6 right now. Okay, so if they lose both of those games. So that is my take. I want you guys to leave your comments and let me know your thoughts as to what you think the Packers record is going to be. I'm super psyched about the Packers season to start. Leave your comments, and as always, go Pack Go. I know we all love to provide feedback when watching a football game, and there's either a call that goes for or against the team you're rooting for. And it typically looks like me sitting there yelling at the screen. But guess what? There's a more productive way to do this, and it's called Penalty Verdict. It's an app that you get to download on your phone that allows you to vote on penalty calls in real time for both NFL and college football games. And the feedback contributes to Ref Performance Matrix. And guess what? They get to see their score. How cool is that? Engage with the community of football fans who desire to see fair and accountable reffing from some of these guys out there. And quite frankly, refs shouldn't dictate the outcome of a game. Sadly, sometimes they do. Unlock the next dimension of sports by engaging with real-time polling of referees, players, and teams. View data-driven insights and have an informed discussion about the game. But here's the thing, Penalty Verdict is in the development phase and would love to hear feedback from you. What features do you want to see on the app this upcoming football season? There's also a cool wagers tab on this app that allows you to bet on different aspects of the game, who's going to win, who will get the most penalties, who's going to get the first penalty, things like that. It's super cool. I'm going to drop a link in the video below that I want you to click on. Penalty Verdict.